Hey, how's it going, guys? This is Bailey again with Rogers Performance Marine here in Hurricane, Utah. So our summer boating season's starting to wind down, which means fish boat season and fall fish boat season is starting to kick up. We're getting our our 2025 Lund product starting to roll in, and we're all excited to get back out and do some fishing. So one thing I want to talk about as the model 2025 model year is starting to come out, people are going to be looking to upgrade or looking to buy their new or their first fish boat is the common comparison I always get. So here in the state of Utah, Lund and Tracker, they go head to head in boat sales every year. They're the top two brands as far as how many boats are sold in the state of Utah. That being said, you see a lot of Lunds and Trackers out on the lake, especially during fish boat season. So right or wrong, you do see a lot of people compare Tracker to Lund when they're shopping their new boats. They see a lot of them, it makes sense. It's not necessarily a fair comparison, but I would probably do the same thing. So that being said, when I get people that have been online, they've been building Lunds, they've been building Trackers, they've gone to Bass Pro, now they came to us and they want to check out the Lunds. The most common question I get is, well, why is Lund more expensive than Tracker? Because it is. That's, in today's world, pricing's about everything. So I wanted to take some time, don't want to waste too much of your time, but to explain the differences here in boats. They really shouldn't be compared side by side, but they are. So let's talk about why they are. So what I've done is I've gone on to both Lund and Tracker's website. You can see here. So I've got a 1775 Adventure built, and I've also got a 17, what do they call it, a 175 Pro Guide by Tracker built. If you look at both of those layouts, both boats very similar as far as size, what they can and can't do, what they're made to do, seating arrangements, storage layout, things like that. Building them apples for apples with same options. First, I want to say I don't recommend doing that. Tracker kind of gets you into this little bit of a pricing trap, we'll call it, or I refer to it as your tracker trap. They don't give you a whole lot of options to choose from. It's pretty cut and dry, and that's part of the reason they can keep their prices so low is having fewer options to choose from. Um, but for the sake of today's video, to show where you're really at in pricing, I've priced them out very close to each other. One thing I gotta say, or I'd be lying in the video, is Tracker does add hydraulic steering standard to this boat. Now it has a 17-foot boat with a 115 need hydraulic steering, especially where it doesn't have a kicker on it. No, definitely not. I run the Adventure all year long without hydraulic steering, and I love it. Um, but they do put it on, so we'll add that in there. So breaking the two down, the pricing you see online, figuring the hydraulic steering upgrade, if you were to add that on the one, you're about $4,400 difference in pricing on option per option. So $4,400, what are you getting? Um, First and foremost, we'll talk about the hull itself. Your Lund's using thicker, higher quality aluminum. You're going to have because of the thicker aluminum, you're going to have a smoother ride, more dense ride. It's going to be stronger. If you do have the unfortunate situation where you have an impact, with a rock or a stump or a beach or anything like that, never once have I seen a Lund hull fail and have any sort of impact penetrate the hull. I have definitely seen it with Trackers, and I think a lot of marine shops have seen it with Trackers. Um, Moving on to the construction of the hull, Tracker is an all welded, Lund is an all riveted hull. This is a ongoing debate. It's been going on for years and years and years, probably longer than I've been alive. I always go back to, why wouldn't they weld a plane if welding was the way to go? It's because it's not. There's a lot of expansion and contraction that goes on in planes as well as boats, and rivets hold up better to that. That being said, it is a lot cheaper for Tracker to have a machine go out and weld the hull together, as opposed to Lund, where they pay a human to go place all these rivets in the boat. If you ever looked at a Lund, there is a lot of rivets to make sure that that boat doesn't leak on you at all. So you do have, more manpower. That's the fit and finish in a Lund. That is the quality of craftsmanship in a Lund. You got to pay for that. I mean, it is what it is. These aren't mass produced overseas. This is, men and women in the United States building these things, and that costs money to do. Um, Another thing to talk about is going to be the engineering. I know it sounds pretty cliche to say, but if you take a look at these two layouts in these boats, you can see Lund is a fish boat engineered by fishermen, and they are using every inch of this 17-foot boat to your advantage. They're not wasting any space. Like if you look at the picture, comparing it with the Tracker, there's a lot of wasted space. If we're talking about the bow area right now, Lund has one port, one starboard side storage compartment. They are communicating storage, meaning it wraps around that bow area. Tons of storage up in the bow, very well designed. Moving forward into that, below the trolling motor, you also have access to storage there. You can use that for your foot pedal, trolling motor remote, trolling motor foot pedal, anchor, things like that. If you look at the layout I'm showing with the tracker, basically from those two small port starboard side storages they have, everything forward of that is completely wasted space. I don't know why they did that other than the engineers were trying to find, a way to cut out some costs. Going into the cockpit of the boat, same deal here. If you look at the way Lund engineers this cockpit, they're using, again, 17 feet very, very wisely, whereas I don't feel like Tracker did the best. You look at that second row with Lund and their seating, because keep in mind these boats are designed to hold 6 people. Lund brings their second row of seats in a little more narrower. That way, the people in the excess jump or the jump seats in the back, they can sit. We can have 3 rows of seats, 6 seats occupied, and that back row, they're not jamming their knees into the back of the second row seating. Whereas, if you look at the layout on this tracker, I don't see how you could have 6 adults in the cockpit of this boat, or even 2 adults and 4 young kids. The seating is just so congested in there. And then if you look at little details here, you've got, like with the Lund, if I have all 6 seats occupied, I still have access to my live well. The Tracker, if I have 6 seats in there, you have to flip the jump seats down to access the live well. Just wasn't really engineered all that great, in my opinion. Next, talk about the components. This is another thing with the pricing. I don't know. I really don't even want to talk about warranty in the video. You just talk about the quality of components, comparing the two, the switches, the electronics, the hinges, the locks, things like that. You can see Lund uses some quality product that's going to hold up for the life of the boat ownership. Whereas Tracker, I feel, looking at these, you're going to be replacing dash switches, you're going to be replacing latches and hinges, and it's just not going to hold up to the abuse these boats get on the water. Next, and again, I'm not trying to brand bash. Tracker does do some good things. They run Mercury motors just like we run on all of our Lunds. They have Mercury control boxes, hinges, shift and throttle cables, ignitions, things like that. But outside of that, you're really there's a big difference between the two brands. Last thing, really talking quality, is going to be the trailers. That's a big deal for us in these mountain states. I have to trailer on average, I'd say about an hour and a half to most lakes. I do have some local close lakes, but we do a lot of hauling. Long story short, Lund builds a nice trailer. They trailer well, they travel well. I've had great luck with them. We, as in our service shop, have dealt with a lot of issues with Tracker trailers. Bow stops, of all things, is probably one of the most common things I see fail. They use a cheaper metal. I see those bow stops crunch on people all the time. And that just kind of shows you this quality of trailer you're getting when you purchase a Tracker. Early in the video, I mentioned a Tracker trap. That's really what they do with pricing. They get you locked in on that, that $37,000 price, showing you you're, several $1,000s less than the Lund, and it kind of gets you stuck, and all you're looking at the price, you don't see what you're missing. First and foremost, the electronics. They're giving a lot of really basic electronics. Granted, we're talking a Minn Kota trolling motor on both boats. We're talking a Lowrance fish finder on the Tracker and a Humminbird fish finder on the Lund, which both brands, Lowrance and Humminbird, and then Minn Kota, make good quality equipment. But what Tracker's putting on there from the factory, and really the only choice they're giving you for these, is very low-end product from Lowrance and Minn Kota. They're giving you a 12-volt trolling motor without iPilot and only operated off of a foot pedal. You would never want that on a 17-foot boat. You want something with iPilot. You definitely want something with 24-volt system. The 55-pound thrust you get out of the 12 volts really not, aside from light maneuvering for bass fishing and stuff like that, it's basically all it's going to be used for. And that 12-volt battery is going to run out quick. Again, in my video, I priced the Lund out to have that, but if you came to my store or our store up in North Salt Lake or our store in Bigwater, we wouldn't hardly ever, I wouldn't recommend it, and I'd hardly ever stock a boat like that. We're going to do something that's got high pilot, something that's 24 volt, 80-pound thrust, things like that, to give you a better experience. Same with the fish finder. They might advertise it with sonar and GPS or triple shot or whatever they want to call it. The Humminbird stuff, as you start getting to that higher helix and then up into the Solix series, like, you're getting better imaging. easier to use, better mapping, things like that. So yes, it may cost you a little bit more up front, but what's not happening is you're not buying this Lund, using it for 3 months, realizing, oh gosh, I need this option and this option that I should have just got in the first place. We order it all that way from the factory, so that boating experience that you're dreaming of and you're paying for, you actually get it. You get the convenience of these nice electronics. You get like simple things, like a trolling motor quick disconnect. Like our trolling motor, you can slide it off if you need to replace it. It's super easy to do. If you want to store it away so it's not exposed to the elements while you're traveling down the road, or while you're storing it outside or anything like that, you can do that. Tracker just bolts theirs right to their bow deck, making replacing it very difficult. And then your cover has to go around it if you wanted to get it out of the sun, which there's not a whole lot of covers for that. So just little things there. Um, and then really moving forward, like I say, up front, you might spend, yeah, 8 to 12%, 10%, somewhere in there more to buy your tracker. But once you figured in, what you had to replace, what you had to fix over the time you owned the boat, and then now you're ready to sell it, right? If you look at these two pictures that I'm showing, you've got a KSL listing. It's a local classifieds for us, showing used Lund boats for sale and then used trackers for sale. As you can see, there's 7 used Lunds in the state of Utah right now, and there's actually only 6. The other guy that's posting on there is looking to purchase a Lund, compared to almost 50 trackers. And granted, some of these trackers listed are pontoons, so they're not really in that same category. But as you can see, there's way more than double, triple, quadruple what you have listed for Lunds that you have listed for trackers. So the day you go to sell that boat, the tracker used boat market's very saturated. There's a lot more on the market to compete with, which usually drives your resale down. The reason you don't see very many Lunds listed online for sale is because they do sell so quick. It's kind of like the Toyota Tacoma fish boats. Like, people know what they're looking for. As soon as they become listed, as long as they've been well maintained and cared for, these things sell ridiculously fast. You see some really nice trackers taken care of, serviced regularly, whatever, but there's 50 boats to choose from used right now just in the state of Utah alone. That makes the competition a lot harder. So what you end up doing is dropping your price to get that boat sold so you can upgrade or just get out of boating. And then that $4,000 savings you had up front, you just lost on the back end. So, I mean, there's some things to consider when you're shopping for your new fish boat for this year. Another thing too, trackers pricing is, for some people it's nice. They advertise it no haggle pricing. It is what it is. Walk into your Lund dealership. Lund offers some really nice summer, spring, fall rebates, boat show rebates. And then too, Lund cares about our military members and our first responders. So they offer military rebates. They offer first responder rebates. You buy your boat at the right time, you might be talking the same dollars as a tracker and getting a lot more boat. So hopefully this gave you a little bit of information. Good luck with your next boat purchase.